I always believed men over 50 had little interest in romance or passion. Most of my friends thought the same, often saying that work, family, and responsibilities consumed them. I accepted that idea, until I met Thomas, my 62-year-old neighbor. Thomas lived a simple life. Gray hair, sharp blue eyes, and a quiet demeanor. His wife was often away visiting family, and I'd see him tending his garden or sitting on his porch, lost in thought. At first, I didn't pay much attention. He was polite but distant, the type of neighbor you'd greet but never really know. One evening, while sipping juice on my porch, I saw him gazing at the horizon, his face filled with something I couldn't quite name. It wasn't sadness, but it wasn't peace either. That image of him stayed with me longer than I expected. I'm Amelia, a 24-year-old woman known for being adventurous and bold. I wasn't one to shy away from curiosity, and curiosity about Thomas began to grow. At first, it was harmless, quick glances whenever we crossed paths. But slowly, I noticed things. The way he fidgeted with his collar when his wife wasn't around. The way his eyes lingered on me for a second too long. It wasn't obvious, but it was there. One evening, as I walked past his yard, our eyes met. This time, it was different. His gaze held something warm but hesitant. My heart raced. I wasn't imagining it anymore. The following week, I decided to act on it. One evening, I walked up to his porch and knocked lightly. When he opened the door, his eyes widened. "Amelia," he said, his voice calm but uncertain. "Is everything all right?" "I thought you might like some company tonight," I replied with a playful smile. He hesitated, then stepped aside. "Come in," he said softly. His house was modest but warm. He offered me a seat and soon returned with a plate of food. "You made this?" I asked, impressed by the aroma. He nodded, smiling. "When my wife's away, I have to figure it out on my own. Turns out, I'm not half bad." I took a bite, and it was delicious. "This is amazing," I said, genuinely surprised. His smile deepened, and for a moment, we sat in comfortable silence. Then he asked, "Why did you really come tonight, Amelia?" His honesty caught me off guard. "I guess I thought you might need some company," I said, not wanting to complicate things. His eyes met mine, calm but sincere. "I do," he admitted softly. "More than you know." The weight of his words hung in the air. I could feel the loneliness behind them, and it stirred something in me. I reached out, lightly touching his hand. He didn't pull away. "Would you like to stay for a while?" he asked. I nodded, feeling a strange calm wash over me. We weren't strangers anymore. We were two people sharing something unspoken, something that had been building for weeks. He offered me a towel, suggesting I freshen up, and I agreed. As I stood in the warm water, I thought about how strange it all was. I had never expected this, never imagined it. Yet here I was, and it felt right. The warm water poured over me, calming my nerves and giving me time to think. It wasn't fear I felt, it was excitement. The thrill of walking into something unfamiliar. I closed my eyes, letting the water wash away my doubt. I dried off, taking a moment to look at myself in the mirror. My reflection stared back with steady eyes. Confidence. Boldness. The traits that had always defined me were still there. I reminded myself that this was my choice. When I returned to the living room, he was waiting. His eyes met mine, and this time, there was no hesitation. We sat side by side, the quiet hum of the house surrounding us. His presence was steady, calming. I had expected to feel nervous or unsure, but I didn't. We didn't say much at first. Sometimes, words aren't necessary. Silence can say more than 1,000 conversations ever could. Eventually, he spoke. His voice was soft but firm. "I didn't realize how much I missed having someone here," he admitted. "Sometimes, it's easy to forget what it's like to have someone to talk to just be with." His words pulled at something deep inside me. Loneliness was universal, something that lingered in the quiet spaces of our lives. I placed my hand on his, letting him know I understood. "Everyone needs someone," I said quietly. "Even you, Thomas." He glanced at me, and for a moment, I thought he might cry. But instead, he smiled. Not a wide smile, but a small, grateful one. "Yeah," he whispered. "Even me." That night, I realized something about Thomas, and maybe about myself. People aren't defined by their age. Passion doesn't fade with time. It only hides, waiting for the right person to awaken it. The hours passed slowly, but neither of us minded. The world outside seemed distant, like it belonged to someone else. Inside, everything was still, peaceful. It felt like the kind of peace that people chase their whole lives. Eventually, I lay my head on his shoulder, closing my eyes. I wasn't thinking about what would happen tomorrow. I wasn't thinking about anything at all. I just listened to his heartbeat, steady and calm, like the rhythm of a quiet song. Sometimes, you don't plan these things. They just happen. You follow the pull, you chase the feeling, and you see where it takes you. And sometimes, where it takes you is exactly where you're supposed to be.